Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is the Impeach and Remove Digital Town Hall featuring Congressman Al Green, hosted by Free Speech for People and Women's March. We are going to get started in just a moment. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in from across the country. We're so thrilled to be gathering with you, even in digital community right now at this time. So welcome. If you have access to the chat right now, or if you're commenting via, you're watching via Facebook or YouTube or another social media platform, please put your name and where you're tuning in from in the chat or in the comments. We're so excited to hear from each and every one of you who are tuning in from all over the place, every corner of the United States. So welcome, everyone. We're going to get started in just a moment. This is the Impeach and Remove Digital Town Hall featuring Congressman Al Green. This is being hosted by Free Speech for People and Women's March. We'll get started in just a moment. And if you have access to a chat or you're able to comment on whatever platform that you're currently watching from, please put your name in the chat and let us know where you're tuning in from, what corner of the country. We're so thrilled and grateful for all of you to be here with us tuning in during this critical time. I am Alexandra Flores Quilty. I'm the campaign director of Free Speech for People. We are a national, nonpartisan nonprofit dedicated to strengthening and defending our democracy. And we're so thrilled to be co-hosting this event with Women's March, a national mobilization organization grounded in gender justice and building a multiracial democracy that works for all people. We're so thrilled to be joined by Congressman Al Green of Texas. He's been a courageous champion for democracy in the U.S., and he has introduced articles of impeachment against Donald Trump for Donald Trump's grave abuses of power. So tonight, everyone's going to get a chance to hear from Congressman Al Green directly about the case for impeachment, about why now is imperative for our country that Trump be held accountable. We're going to hear also from John Bonifaz, who's the president of Free Speech for People. He's a constitutional lawyer. We'll hear about how impeachment works, the case for impeachment, and why we can't wait. We're also going to hear from Tamika Middleton, who is the managing director of Women's March, about the movement for impeachment and how every single one of us can take action and take leadership right now, in particular during the congressional August recess. And so we're going to share some concrete ways for you all to take action. There's going to be time for you all to get a chance to ask questions to the speakers tonight. And you're able to do that by submitting questions. So please submit it through the chat, through the comments. Ask your questions. We'll be collecting those from during the town hall. And then in the last portion of the town hall, we'll get a chance to ask your questions to this panel of amazing leaders defending our democracy. I also just want to acknowledge the moment that we are in right now. It's a very dark time for our democracy under the Trump administration. We are facing attacks on our communities right out of the fascist playbook. These attacks are fueled by blatant, undeniable white supremacy and fascism. And I know that for many of us, we've been feeling a lack of hope. Lives have already been lost due to this administration. People's freedom has already been taken away. But I think we're all here tonight together because we want this to end. We're ready to take action to make it end. And there is a remedy for these high crimes committed by the Trump administration, a democratic process, and it is called impeachment. The Constitution says it's Congress's job to enforce it. And of course, it's the people's job, all of ours, to ensure our members of Congress do their job. So tonight we're here, I think, in the spirit of responsibility so that we can take responsibility for this moment, for the future of our democracy, and so that Congress can take responsibility to fix this current situation through the appropriate democratic process, which is impeachment. And now I'd love to turn it over to one of our fearless leaders, champions for democracy, Congressman Al Green, who knows all about taking responsibility and showing up and taking leadership. So I'll pass it over to Congressman Green as our first speaker this evening.
Well, thank you, everyone. I especially want to thank all of the people who have been with us with this movement for some time now. I'm honored to have this opportunity to say just a few words to you. And let me start by giving you a bit of an apology because I'm in transition. I am not in Houston in my environment where I have access to a lot of resources. I had to rush to Austin, Texas on very short notice. I came without staff and I don't have a lot of the things that are necessary to make this technology function for you. So my apologies to you. I'm in Austin, Texas because we are experiencing some extreme gerrymandering in Texas, which is nothing unusual generally speaking, except in this case, it is being ordered by the Justice Department, the Trump Justice Department, because the Justice Department is alleging that Texas gerrymandered based upon race, meaning based upon a desire to make sure that persons of color would get elected to specific seats. And Texas is rebuffing this and indicating no, the gerrymandering was colorblind. Now, Texas has to say that it was done colorblind because they're in a lawsuit. I'm a plaintiff in that lawsuit. And in that lawsuit, we're alleging that Texas has created maps that do not benefit the overwhelming majority of people in the state of Texas, which happens to be minority people. So this is quite a situation that Texas has itself in, and I'm here to give testimony tomorrow. I was at a press conference earlier today with our leader, Hakeem Jeffries. I came in last night and I met with leadership with the State House and the State Senate, and we're pulling a team together to fight this invidious discrimination taking place here in Texas. But let's move on to the things that we have been doing together with impeachment. I appreciate people considering me as a person at the forefront of the movement, but the truth is that we've really been doing this together. We were doing it maybe in different spaces, different places, but we all had the same goal in mind, and that is protecting the Constitution. While this is about President Trump, it really has a greater, deeper meaning in that it's about the Constitution of the United States of America. And whether it is real or whether it is something that we observe when it is to our benefit, and when we don't want to, we simply ignore it. Well, we who are assembled today believe that the Constitution is something that is real, that it is something that we honor, and that we pledge our fealty to, and we do it consistently, not occasionally. So I thank you, but I want to just let you know that I consider us all a part of this avant-garde movement. And as members of this avant-garde movement, we're doing it specifically now as it relates to President Trump because he continually, he's often violating the Constitution in ways that merit some response from people who have fealty to the Constitution. He has violated the Constitution as it relates to a person's right to due process, and he's still doing it. He does it consistently, and some of us believe that we shouldn't allow it to happen even one time, but there are others who seem to excuse it. And I like to liken it to my dear friend John Manifest, a person that I recognize as a full-time constitutional scholar and all the time constitutional scholar, not a sometime, not a part-time, not an occasional, not when it is to our benefit. No, he's a constitutional scholar when it works for us as we would want it to. And sometimes there are things that we have to do that we may not necessarily want to, but if we're going to pledge fealty to the Constitution, we have to do it all the time. So John, if you're listening, I want to thank you for your many years of service and the help that you provide in this avant-garde movement. So in this effort to protect the right to due process, we discovered, and it was, I shouldn't really say discovered, it was made very clear to us that the president would deny person due process not only that, but ship the person out of the country, and with a no return provision, which is just unbelievable that you can simply pick a person up off the street without the due process, without the right to say, hey, you're the wrong person, and then ship them to some faraway place in some place where your family can't reach you. You have no access to the people that care about you and love you. You don't have access to a lawyer who can assist you. This is one of the great breaches of the Constitution that we may witness in our lifetimes. We've minimized it because it's being done with a degree of normalcy, I suppose, now. But this is a horrific breach of the Constitution. And free speech for people, the Women's March, many other organizations are taking a stand against this. And I'm honored to be a part of this movement. I would also mention that we find ourselves with a president who has no respect for separation of powers. He literally believes that he can, and to some extent he has, taken control of the judiciary. He believes that if the judges differ with him, they are wrong, he is always right. And one of the remedies for judges who differ with him happens to be impeachment. Well, I take great difference with that. I just can't believe that we would allow a president to challenge the branch of government that is supposed to give us the interpretations of the law, give us a reasonable discernment as to what a given circumstance merits as it relates to the law. This president doesn't honor this. He believes that he is above the judiciary. And when you're above the judiciary, you're saying you are above the law. He believes now, with the limited immunity that he's received from the Supreme Court, that he's above the law, so he does not honor separation of powers. He has concluded, it seems, that with his control over the judiciary with intimidation, to the extent that he does it, and then there are others who do it just out of fealty to him, with his influence in Congress, the Republican Party has totally subjugated itself to the president, with his ability to have a segment of the mass media that seems to, on a daily basis, give him the desires of his life, which is to say he is great and he's doing nothing wrong. He is the best president we've ever had. They just continue to salute him in ways that are not merited. So with all of these things working for him, and given that we stand with the Constitution, then I say we, not I, we have no choice but to embark upon impeachment as a remedy. It would be great if Congress would take a stand and rebuff the president's efforts. But the Republicans in Congress won't. They are absolutely married to him and pledged guilty to him. He has control of the judiciary to the extent that many of them will honor him. And when they don't, he will then appeal to the Supreme Court, which can take an inordinate amount of time. And all he wants is time. He's not interested in justice. Just give him time so that he can have his programs implemented. So we have embarked upon what appears to be the last resort for we the people, and that is impeachment. The last resort as it relates to litigation, the last resort as it relates to politics, but not the last resort as it relates to what we are capable of doing. Because after we have done all we can with impeachment, and if we don't have a House that's willing to impeach and a Senate that's willing to convict, and the president has dissolved us into an authoritarian autocracy with himself as the authoritarian president, when he has devolved us into this, then we the people have something else that has been used as of late for this specific president, and that is protestation. We have the right to take to the street, to use free speech, and to peacefully let our grievances be known to others. And as others hear these grievances and understand them, they too will join the movement. And as they join the movement then sends a seminal message, a message that can change things going forward. And that message is that we won't tolerate a dictator. We won't tolerate a king. We won't accept authoritarianism, that we will stand firm on the solid ground that the Constitution provides for people of goodwill who want to protect a country that has at its very foundation a Constitution that has given us these many years of freedom, of liberty, and justice. Now, I'm not saying that the United States has been perfect, because my ancestors suffered enslavement. So, not by no means perfect, but it has given us a means by which we have checks and we have balances, and we've been able to resolve things internally, saving a few times without having a war within. I believe in the Constitution. I'm doing this because I stand on it, but I'm also doing it finally for this reason. There's really a sort of a moral imperative that we have as we respect the humanity within each of us to protect each other. It's not enough for me to want to protect myself. Freedom is not free. My freedom relies on you, and your freedom resides in me. If I am to be free, I must protect you, and if you are to be free, you have to protect me. Freedom is not free, never has been, and never will be. This is our mandate, to protect each other. This is our moral imperative. If we don't do this, this can become a circumstance such that we will find ourselves at odds with each other in ways that can spiral out of control. We've seen what has happened in Gaza when the laws of the universe don't prevail. We've seen how one power, one superpower with atomic energy, with nuclear power, how a superpower can simply do almost as it wills with the lives of children, the lives of innocent people. Just take them at will. When you give a power the authority to take lives at will without consequences, then you end up with circumstances that are regrettable, but more than regrettable, they are dreadful, and they have deadly consequences. What's happening in Gaza is collective punishment. What's happening in Gaza is ethnic cleansing. What's happening in Gaza is genocide. It is. It's happening before our very eyes. And do not expect the agents here in the United States to differ, because we are complicit. We are aiding and abetting. And as aiders and abettors, with our tax dollars, I might add, we send our tax dollars in the form of munitions. We send our tax dollars there, and they are used by the Netanyahu administration to continue to impose this horrific war, this collective punishment, this ethnic cleansing on the people of Gaza, and it has now metamorphosed into genocide. And this is the kind of thing that a good constitution prevents. I wish that we had a constitution for the world, with a court for the world that was respected. I'm not saying that these things don't exist. I'm just saying that superpowers don't always respect them. We are the example of a superpower, and ignoring the World Court, the various United Nations facilities that are in place to prevent the kind of thing that's happening in Gaza. But because we are a superpower and we have veto power, we ignore these things. And if we're not careful, even in this country, we can see ugly things happen that we will regret for many years into the future. Posterity will not understand how we allow such egregious things to occur. And I'm not forecasting that they are going to occur, because I believe we will stop it. I believe that we, the people, taking the stance that we're taking now, moving forward with impeachment as we will, there will be more articles of impeachment. Moving forward with impeachment, We the people at the polls on election day. We the people with protestation when necessary. We the people will begin the evolution of the country into a state of such horrific circumstances that we can't manage them, and we find ourselves at odds with each other in ways that will cause us to lose the government of the people, by the people, for the people.
Thank you so much, Congressman Al Green. So grateful that the Congressman was able to join us this evening in the midst of defending democracy in Texas with the redistricting fight there. And so just really grateful for him tuning in with us this evening. And of course, for his incredible leadership when it comes to defending the Constitution and being a leader on impeachment. We're so grateful for the Congressman. I'm now going to turn it over to John Bonifaz. John is the president of Free Speech for People and is a constitutional lawyer. So I'll turn it over to John.
Thank you, Alexandra. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight for this National Town Hall on impeachment. And thank you, Congressman Green, for your courage and your leadership. We're so proud and honored to be working with the Congressman. He is a champion for our democracy, and we need many more brave members of Congress to stand with him. At Free Speech for People, we're proud to be partnering with Women's March in holding this town hall and in working with all of you to advance the fight for impeaching and removing this reckless, lawless president. The framers were clear. The framers were clear when they set out the Constitution. There would be no monarchs, no tyrants who would govern America, no kings in America. And they did so through the Constitution, setting up three co-equal branches of government. Article 1 for the United States Congress, Article 2 for the presidency, and Article 3 for the judiciary. Three co-equal branches of government, no kings in America. But they set up an extra guardrail to deal with that day when a president would so trample on the Constitution, so trample on the rule of law, that president would need to be held accountable through the impeachment process. Section 4 of Article 2, the impeachment clause, is that remedy that we face today. And that is why it is so critical to invoke it, because this is the very situation the framers thought might be necessary. Donald Trump has committed multiple abuses of power, as Congressman Green has highlighted, multiple impeachable offenses since taking the oath of office again on January 20th, 2025, and he must be held accountable through the impeachment process. Now, for those who are not immersed in the details of the impeachment process, I'll just briefly walk us through that. The process involves introducing articles of impeachment in the United States House of Representatives. The U.S. House of Representatives needs to pass those articles with a simple majority of members voting for it. And then it goes on to the United States Senate, where there will be a trial. And if there is a conviction and a finding that there is, after the trial, that the president or whoever is facing those articles of impeachment has been convicted on those articles of impeachment, then that individual is removed from public office. Now, with respect to the House process, normally it goes through the House Judiciary Committee, but it's not the only route through which articles of impeachment can be advanced. There's also the opportunity to bring to the floor of the House of Representatives as a privileged resolution articles of impeachment. It's treated under the House rules, known as House Rule 9, as a privileged resolution, which can be a vote forced within 48 hours of the time that the article is advanced through House Rule 9. And that is how Congressman Green, on June 24th of this year, forced the first vote of this presidential term on articles of impeachment against Donald Trump. He introduced those articles on June 24th, and on June 24th, there was a vote. And importantly, there were 78 members of Congress who joined Congressman Green in voting to advance his articles of impeachment. Those articles were about the violation of the War Powers Clause that Donald Trump had committed with his unlawful military attack in Iran without congressional authorization. Prior to that vote, there were only about 20 members of Congress on record supporting impeachment. That was quadrupled with that vote. There are now, with Congressman Andre Carson, who joined the next day, there are now 80 members of Congress in the U.S. House of Representatives on record in support of impeaching Donald Trump. That was a critical development in this fight, and all of us working together, all of you listening in, are part of that fight for signing on at impeachtrumpagain.org, the petition with nearly 1 million signatures that we delivered just last week, and all of our voices being heard to our representatives in Congress, calling on them to take this action. So it was an important development. And as Congressman Green has said, it will not be the last article of impeachment introduced, and it will not be the last vote on articles of impeachment. There will be more, and we will push for there to be more. And with respect to the articles of impeachment and the abuses of power, I'll just briefly go through some of these other grounds that we have identified and documented in detail at impeachtrumpagain.org, where we have articles of impeachment that we've drafted, but also detailed grounds that you can visit that site to learn more about. This president is engaged, as I said, in multiple abuses of power, disappearing people from the streets and sending them to foreign torture prisons, a high crime. Illegally detaining, kidnapping people and removing them from the United States, high crime. Attacking the United States Congress, which has duly appropriated funds for public interest projects all over the country, freezing those funds without any authorization, preventing those appropriated funds from being allocated. High crime. Attacking the judiciary, defying multiple court orders issued by federal courts all across the country. High crime. Pardoning more than 1,500 of his fellow insurrectionists for the insurrection that he incited on January 6, 2021, trying to further hide any scrutiny or liability for his role as the insurrectionist in chief. A high crime. Rampant corruption in the White House, violating the foreign and domestic emoluments clauses, refusing to divest from his business interests all over the world, treating the Oval Office as a profit-making enterprise at the public expense. A high crime. Mobilizing the U.S. military against civilian protesters, attacking the First Amendment. A high crime. The list goes on. And as I said, we've documented this at Impeach Trump Again. Multiple abuses of power, multiple high crimes, impeachable offenses for which this president must be held accountable. Now, we understand that there are going to be people, maybe your friends, maybe your neighbors, who look at this question, hearing these charges, and they say, you know what? The votes aren't there. We tried this before. He was impeached twice. He wasn't convicted. And, the fact is we just got to wait. Now is not the time to talk about impeachment. We have three responses to that. Number one, we either have a constitution or we don't. We either have an impeachment clause or we don't. If we do not invoke the impeachment power at this critical hour for our nation, then we are effectively saying we're giving up on the United States Constitution. We refuse to give up on the United States Constitution. Number two, we normalize Donald Trump's actions when we do not name them for what they are: high crimes against the state, abuses of power, impeachable offenses. We must not normalize this conduct. We must name them for what they are. And finally, members of Congress take the very same oath that Donald Trump took on January 20th to protect and defend the Constitution. They have a duty to abide by that oath, to follow the mandate of that oath, and to invoke the impeachment power. That includes voting with Congressman Green when he introduces another article of impeachment, but it also includes introducing their own articles of impeachment. And there are plenty from our site, Impeach Trump Again, to choose from, sadly. So members of Congress need to be pressured continually by us, we the people, for them to abide by that oath and fulfill the responsibility they have to stand forward and defend our democracy and our Constitution at this critical hour. And that's why we're all here together to defend our Constitution, our democracy. And we're so proud to be working with all of you at this crucial moment for our nation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John, for running through about impeachment, how the process works, about the case for impeachment of Trump's impeachable offenses, and why it's time for us to call for impeachment now. I'm now going to turn it over to Tamika Middleton of Women's March, the managing director, to talk more about how all of us can actually take action. How do we build this movement? What can all of us actually do right now? So really thrilled and honored to pass it over to Tamika.
Up here on mute. It's a long day, y'all. Thank y'all for joining us at the end of your day. Hey, everybody. It's Tamika Middleton. I am managing director over here at Women's March. So grateful for all of you. Thanks so much for our friends at Free Speech for People, for John, for Alexandra, for Representative Al Green, and all the work and leadership that they have been showing in working on this process. So I see y'all in the comments. I see y'all in the chat, and you're saying, okay, but what now? What do we do? So that's what I'm here for. I'm your action girly. So when this administration began in January, so many people were preparing to do what we know we must never do in the face of fascism: obey in advance. In the face of a loss, many people, elected leaders included, allowed themselves to drown in defeat, in grief, in despair. But when others vowed to work with fascists, many of you took to the streets to resist it. Because that is what this moment calls for: resistance at every turn, in every moment, in every way. The threat we are facing is not small. It is not distant. It is not quietly approaching. We have heard from our panelists tonight about the many offenses that have made this the strongest case for impeachment yet. We are watching the news. We are seeing what is happening in our communities, to our loved ones, our neighbors. We feel the impact in our own households. And we know that the very idea of democracy is in danger. So it is time for the cavalry to emerge. And in the words of the inimitable June Jordan, we are the ones we have been waiting for. So it's up to each one of us to stand up, to resist, to fight back, to find our place in the movement to defeat fascism, and to grow a new world in its place. All right, here's a question. Magic question. What do we do? Here's our invitation to you. First, sign the petition. So right now, our friends at Free Speech for People have gathered 975,795 signatures, We're trying to get to 1 million, y'all. So if you haven't yet visit or signed the petition, visit womensmarch.com/impeach. You can go to impeachtrump.com. And we want you to share that petition with your friends, your family, your neighbors. Post it on your tickety-tockety, post it on your Instagram. We are almost there, y'all. We want to get to 1 million because we need to show legislators that there is a force, that there is a base, that there is a constituency that is pushing, that is behind this effort, and that is fighting for this. Second, encourage your Congresspeople to support the articles of impeachment. So we have to make sure that Representative Green is not out here alone. Just like John said, they can support those his articles of impeachment. They can file their own articles of impeachment. We need to push them. We need to push them. I saw y'all in the chat saying, where are the Democrats? Why aren't the Republicans up in arms? We gotta get them there, right? In the month of August, Congress is on recess, which means that all of your elected officials will be back home in their districts. This is your time to put a hand in their face or a battery in their backs. Free Speech for People and Women's March have an offering to support you in this, in your organizing. So in the chat and on the screen, we will drop the link to a toolkit that gives you tools, resources, action steps, and talking points for talking to your legislators during the recess. We want you to show up where they are, at town halls, at public events, at their offices. Make sure that while they are in the district with you, that they see you. So go to womensmarch.com/impeach and you can get the toolkit. We need you to talk to them about why they need to support impeachment. Let them know that we will stand behind them if they stand up. So please go ahead and get the toolkit. Take advantage of this recess as an opportunity to make sure that the people you put in office hear your voice. And most importantly, at this time, take every single opportunity to resist. Fight back against fascist rhetoric in your everyday conversations, online and offline. Fight back by building mutual aid projects that meet the needs that are left unmet in your communities because of budget cuts and bad policy. Fight back by training and running for office. Fight back by listening to your neighbors and having hard conversations. Fight back by doing what Timothy Snyder says in his book on tyranny, looking your neighbors in the eyes and making small talk. Fight back by holding your elected officials responsible. Fight back by getting in the streets. Whatever you do, do it with resistance in your heart. Whatever you say, say it with resistance on your tongue. Remember, you are not alone. Whenever you make good trouble, you are in good company. So thank you for being in the fight. Like we say at Women's March, get in where you fit in, and we will see you in the streets.
I'm so fired up. Thank you so much, Tamika. Every time you speak, I'm always so fired up and ready to take action. And I know I can see from the comments and folks engaging that people are fired up to take action too. We're now going to go to the Q&A section. Thank you, everyone who has been submitting questions. We're really excited to get to them. So the first question I want to address from folks. Many people are actually asking about the petition and how many signatures we have, and actually about the petition delivery. So I thought maybe if you could just take a chance, just to maybe one of you wants to share about what happened last week with our organizations that were actually in DC delivering these petition signatures to Congress. If you can give a recap about what happened there.
Sure, I'm happy to start there if that makes sense. So we did have a delivery last Wednesday, July 23rd, jointly, Free Speech for People and Women's March delivering nearly 1 million signatures to Congress. We delivered that both to Congressman Green at a press conference outside of the Capitol and held a press conference with Congressman Green. And then we went into the Rayburn House office building where we met with the chief of staff for Congressman Jamie Raskin, who's the ranking member, as we know, on the House Judiciary Committee. The House Judiciary Committee is the committee that has jurisdiction over impeachment matters. We delivered those nearly 1 million signatures to his chief of staff. And then we went over to Congressman Jim Jordan's office Jim Jordan, of course, is the chair of the House Judiciary Committee, and we delivered the nearly 1 million signatures to his office. We are going to stay on this. As Tamika has rightly said, this is a fight we're going to keep moving forward with, and we are hopeful that we're going to get across that 1 million threshold with your help, but then we're going to keep going. There's no reason to stop at 1 million. There are people all over this country, when they find out about this fight, they want to join in. And there will be more, I'm confident, more petition deliveries. But this was a historic moment, really, within 6 or so months of Donald Trump taking the oath of office. We were able to deliver nearly 1 million signatures to Congress demanding that he be impeached and removed from public office.
I want to give a shout out to the amazing Women's March leaders in the DC area that came out last week to help us with the petition delivery. Betty, Linda, Will, David, Susan, just to name a few. I think many of those folks might be tuning in tonight, and just want to say, so grateful. People took time off of work, away from families, to come out and help deliver and help represent the nearly 1 million people from across the country who couldn't be there in person. So if you haven't already checked out the live stream, the videos that we have from the event, both the press conference and then at the petition delivery, I know that they're up on the Women's March and Free Speech for People social media accounts. So please check those out because it was definitely a very powerful event. And it was an important opportunity to send a message to Congress as they were just getting ready to leave to go back in district for this recess that Tamika was talking about, that we had this be one of the final things that they heard about before they left DC. And now it's the perfect opportunity that when they come back in district, they'll hear directly from their constituents once again about impeachment. So the next question I saw, and there's maybe a couple similar to this, which I think is about like the viability for impeachment with this current Congress. There's some questions, Republicans will never impeach him. How will that happen? Is it even possible before the 2026 election? Questions just about the feasibility of this. And would love to invite Tamika and John, if you have any insights about, I think this is also in line with a lot of the issues that we work on when people feel like, this doesn't feel winnable in the current moment. So what do we do?
John, you want to start and talk about the specifics? And I have thoughts. But
go ahead. You start. You go ahead, Tamika. You start.
I want to start here, y'all. I think, one of the things that that feels important to name when we're talking about fascism and this federal level, right? And we're talking about state capture by the right, is that many of us have been living inside of state capture by the right in this country for some time, especially those of us who live in the South. And also, it is important to note that that the conditions of authoritarianism, the conditions of fascism have existed previously in the South, especially in relationship to Black folks, right? And so there are conditions that we are fighting under right now that some of us have been fighting under for many years, right? And the reality of fighting in conditions that feel untenable, conditions that feel unwinnable, undefeatable, right? The reality of that is that, in the words of Frederick Douglass, power concedes nothing without a demand. If we do not fight, we can never win, right? And what I have learned from my folks, from my ancestors, shout out to the Southern Rural Conversation about Southern. I saw some South Carolinians in the chat. I'm from South Carolina originally. Listen, I've been living in the South my entire life, and have been Black in the South my entire life. I don't know if you might have caught on to that too, but what I have learned from the traditions I come from is that organizing gets the goods, and it is not a one-time thing. It is not a fight that that you take it and it's going to take 5 months. It's going to take 6 months. It might not take a year. It might take many years to get to the destination. But we have to stay in it and we have to be diligent about it. And so if we do not win this time, we do not quit. We do not give up. We continue to go. We continue to fight. And also understand that the petition delivery, the articles of impeachment, they are one tactic. They are one thread for how we are trying to defeat fascism. They are not the only thread, the only tactic. So I saw somebody say, I've been doing the thing. I signed the petition already. Amazing. Stay in the fight. Keep doing all the things, right? It's going to take us in the streets. It's going to take us pulling up on our Congress folks wherever they are. It's going to take us signing petitions. It's going to take us running for office. It's going to take us organizing in our communities. It's going to take us pushing and fighting for drafting our own policy agendas. It's going to take us doing all the things if we're going to win, if we're going to save democracy, if we're going to live up to the promise of this country. We've been fighting for it for generations, right? And we cannot give up now. This is not insurmountable. We have faced tough things before, and we will again, and we have to stay in the fight. So I'll be quiet. Those are my thoughts, John.
So well said, Tamika. I couldn't agree with you more on all that. And I'll just add to the Frederick Douglass quote, the Nelson Mandela quote, it always seems impossible until it's done. And look, President Donald Trump, what he wants us all to give up, with respect to any opposition, with respect to calling him out on his impeachable offenses. He wants us to be silent. He wants us to be scared. He wants us to be on the sidelines. We will not allow that. We will not give him any of that. We will continue to stand up and building this case for impeachment, because that is what's required if we're going to ultimately get to the place where he's impeached and removed from public office. We cannot only show up when it feels fair weather, when it feels like, okay, the votes are there, now we got it, now let's move. People say, well, we got to wait until 2027. That's not the time you begin to build the case for impeachment. You begin to build it now with the overwhelming evidence of the abuses of power that this reckless president has been committing from day one of his presidency. That's why we got to keep building it now. And, I recognize that people are going to say, well, where are the votes? But we're not focused on making sure the votes are there today in order to start building this case. We have to build this movement every day to the point when the votes are there, that it happens. And we will have, as I said before, and as Congressman Green has pledged, we will have more opportunities for members of Congress to be placed on record. And each and every time that happens, I think it's very likely we're going to see more members stepping forward because of the pressure that we keep building, the movement that we keep building on this. And that alone will be a key measurement of success on how we're pushing this question all across the nation to demand the impeachment and removal of this lawless president.
Thank you so much, John and Tamika. And I want to thank everyone who's tuning in right now. I think one of the things I'm taking away from both of your remarks right now is like movements are built. They don't just happen, they are built. And I want to thank everyone who's tuning in, because I think everyone who's taking the time out of their lives at the end of a day, like this, work, family, etc. You guys are movement builders. Obviously you're tuning in right now, so you're already showing us who you are. And so thank you for being movement builders, because every single movement throughout US history or world history, the biggest social movements that, toppled dictatorships and expanded citizenship and, expanded civil liberties, all of those took movements that required them movement builders. And so invite you and celebrate all of you who are tuning in, who are going to be movement builders with us, so we can build a movement strong enough and powerful enough to impeach and remove Trump, so that we can one day once again have a day where Donald Trump is not president of the United States. So I have this kind of came up as a theme, getting still on Congress. So if someone says, my congressperson during the recent impeachment vote didn't vote in support of impeachment, how do I get them to change their mind?
Well, I think it would be great, obviously, if you're able to interact with your members of Congress in the district. As Tamika highlighted, we're coming into the August recess. Many of them are back in their districts. And for you and your friends and neighbors and people who are with you in this fight to seek these meetings. If they're not holding town halls, then request a meeting with that member's office. But if they are holding town halls, show up and speak out, ask a question. Well, why did you vote the wrong way on impeachment with respect to this lawless president? Now, they may say, well, look, I didn't think the evidence was there with respect to that article that Congressman Green introduced. If they try that, you can highlight there's many other abuses of power this president has committed. If you don't agree with that one, what are you doing to introduce articles of impeachment around the abuses of power that he has committed. If their position is that none of these are abuses of power, that these are just policy disputes, then you pressure them on the fact that the Constitution makes clear that there are foreign and domestic emoluments clauses, that you can't disappear people off the streets and send them to foreign prisons, that Congress has the power to appropriate money, not the president, that the courts have the power to interpret the laws and to issue orders that need to be respected. All of these are on our site at impeachtrumpagain.org, and you can use that information to challenge your members of Congress if they try to squirrel away and argue that impeachment is either untimely or not supported by the evidence.
And I just want, again, to remind folks that the toolkit is there for your use. It tells you, it's a sort of step-by-step. Every single thing. You have a legislator that is coming home. They will be there. They should be there on Monday, Tuesday. And so it tells you, are they holding a town hall? Here's what I find out if they're holding a town hall. Here's what you do if they are holding a town hall. You can show up by yourself. That's great. But here's how you organize your folks in your community to also show up at that town hall and to pack that town hall. Here's how to make a force. Here's how to get yourself on the stack to ask questions and to make comments at the town hall. If they are not holding a town hall, there are some folks we've seen since the election that people are opting out of speaking to their constituents, right? But they are accountable to you as a constituent. And so here's what you do in the event that they are avoiding town halls, that they are avoiding public events. This is what you do. If they are in support of impeachment, here is what you say. If they are against impeachment, here is what you say. And there's all the talking points and a number of resources. So please, we built this thing out for y'all, because we want to make organizing as straightforward and as easy as possible. If you are brand new to this, the toolkit is there to make it easy. If you've done this before, hey, you might not need a toolkit, but you have it as a resource, okay? And so we want to encourage you to get into that, to use the resources that are created here, that are shared here, because we know that the thing that we have to be up to is organizing both our neighbors and our legislators and our elected officials, organizing them to our side. And that requires a lot of conversation, right? Requires a lot of listening and a lot of pushing. Sometimes it's just a matter of a little nudge to give your folks the courage to do something, right? Sometimes it's a question of having enough people behind them that they know they can stand on a thing, right? And sometimes it's a matter of having enough people behind them that they feel like their seat is in jeopardy if they don't do a thing. And so we want you to take that toolkit and to organize your folks and to figure out what is at stake for your target, for your congressperson, and how can you help them navigate what might be difficult for them to do, because it might require a bit of courage for them to step out in support of impeachment at this time, or it might take a little bit of force to get them to do what is right.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm so excited to see all the amazing actions and town halls in the coming weeks. I know that you all tuning in right now and so many others are going to be fired up, and I'm excited to see all the videos online of people asking their member, why didn't you support impeachment? When are you introducing your own articles of impeachment? Or also, if your member did support impeachment, they do support it, saying thank you. We need appreciation and to stand behind members like Al Green who are taking leadership. And we can also tell them they can do more, like Congressman Green. That's great that they voted in support of it, maybe. Can they introduce their own articles of impeachment? Because that wasn't the first impeachment vote, and that won't be the last one. There can and will be more. I think that maybe the last question for you both, I saw, a theme in here about what about Vance, or what about the other corrupt, unlawful actions being committed by other people in the Trump administration? What do we do about those folks? How would impeachment be an answer or address those?
Tamika, I'm happy to start if you want me to. So, we do get this question. It's an important one. We start with Donald Trump because he's at the top in terms of the abuses of power that are being committed in this administration, but he's not the only one, obviously. What's clear is if we go through the process of impeaching and removing Donald Trump from office, anyone coming into that Oval Office is going to know that if they engage in those kinds of abuses of power, they too will face the impeachment and removal process. And if there is evidence, and there very well may be, that Vance and others are engaging in abuse of power, then they too will be held accountable. But we start with Donald Trump because he's the one at the top that is ordering all of these impeachable offenses to be committed. He's the one overseeing the rogue agency ICE and all that they're committing and the destruction they're committing of people's lives, sending them to foreign torture prisons, illegally detaining them, attacking the First Amendment. All of these violations that he's overseeing is why we're starting with him. But there's no question that other members of his administration have been engaged in these kinds of abuses of power, and they too need to face accountability once we demonstrate that Donald Trump has been impeached and removed from public office.
Yeah, again, like we were saying earlier, this is not, this is a journey. The impeachment of Donald Trump is not the end game. It is one stop along the way in this fight. It is an important stop along the way. And so we're in it because that is one of our goals. But we know that we will have to continue to be fighting because fascism didn't arrive with Donald Trump. He is not the sole, perpetuator of the move in the walk towards fascism in this country. So we're going to have to keep fighting. Yes, we want to, whoever moves up in that spot, there'll also be a target. But also, I want to say again, that there are a number of ways to target folks, right? There are a number of ways to be organizing. There are a number of strategies that we can be up to. I saw someone talking about going to, like, your legislator doesn't want to have town halls, you hold your own. I saw someone say, show up to the protest. There are a number of ways for us to hold these folks' feet to the fire. And so the invitation here is, yes, fight for impeachment. Yes, use the toolkit. Contact your folks during the recess, sign the petitions, but also do all the things. Whatever it is that will push and that will pressure your legislator, do the thing. Whatever it is that you need, whatever it is we need to do. You saw people targeting Musk when he was there, through the Tesla takedowns. There are a number of strategies that we have to be up to. And so we got to be up to all of them. We got to, by all tactics, all strategies, all means. That's what we're up to right now.
Amazing. Well, I think we can conclude the Q&A. Thank you so much, Tamika. Thank you so much, John, for your remarks, for your leadership, for your insights. Super grateful for the both of you. In wrapping up, I just want to do a quick recap for everyone tuning in about the next steps. So first, everyone who RSVP'd for this, we have your email. You'll receive a follow-up email from us that includes all the links and action items that we discussed. But the number one thing, just to highlight again from everything that Tamika had shared, is this important moment around the August recess. Your members, they're home, they're in district, and we have a way to support you in taking action to urge them to support the impeachment of Donald Trump. So womensmarch.com/impeach. That is where you can get the toolkit. Sign up for it right now. In addition, I also want to give a shout out to where you can actually get an impeach and remove t-shirt. Women's March has one that they just launched. So if you go to womensmarch.com/shop, there's some really cool looking impeach and remove t-shirts. Maybe you and all your friends or family can get them together, show up at a town hall in your impeach or remove t-shirts. That would be cute. And I'm sure we will, both of our organizations will be, if you send us those photos, we'll be so excited to uplift those. So get your t-shirts and wear them to a town hall. And yeah, just want to say again, thank you for everyone who's tuning in. We have a democratic process for this exact situation, for a lawless tyrant. It is impeachment and removal. And that will only happen if there is a mass people-powered movement mobilizing to demand it. And if we build a movement that is big enough, strong enough, we will win. It's only a matter of building it. And that is actually something that every single one of us has agency and is capable of doing. So I invite each and every one of you to continue to be a part of the movement, to help us build it, to take action. Let's do it together. Let's end this tyranny. Don't we want this to all be over? Let's go do that together. So thank you everyone so much. See you out there and good night.